Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another live this morning. And good to have you on with us. So you get a chance, say hi, and make sure everything is copacetic. Everything is good. A good morning, Nativity. How are you this morning? Good to have you on. And this morning we're going to continue with metabolically healthy, what to do. And Manette, how are you? And Susan, how are you? And good to have you on with us this morning, Diane and Yolande, Lisa, and Rebecca, and Rosa. How do you like that? Lisa, Rebecca, and Rosa. All rhyming this morning. Jeanette, good morning. Shelley, Nick, how are you this morning? It's good to have you on with us this morning. We're going to talk about metabolically healthy, and we started that yesterday, that 12%, I say less, but 12%. I want you to join the 12% of the population that is, and Lisa, good morning, Diane, and Sharon from New Brunswick, and Judy from New Brunswick, and Donna is on with us this morning, Marie, and Jerry from New Brunswick. You guys are great. We sure appreciate you coming on. Diane from Thornton, and PEI, Vonda, how are you? Troy, our good buddy in Newfoundland, Linda, and from Grand Falls, a lot of folks from New Brunswick, Diane, and Karen from Coldwater. Okay, I appreciate you guys. Roxanne, and how are you? Teresa from Elliott Lake. Okay, we got a good crowd on with us this morning, and we appreciate that very much. So let's get right into the teaching this morning of how to be metabolically healthy. Now, this is very important because I'll just read you the statistics again. These come out of the United States, but it's very, very appropriate to Canada because, and if you noticed, if you are in our Martin Clinic Facebook group, I just posted a study that was there that came yesterday. Well, I saw it on my news feed, but it's a study about fatty liver. If you, part of metabolic syndrome is fatty liver. And the study was saying, if you want to go and read it, the study was saying that the problem with fatty liver is most people do not know they have it. They don't know they have fatty liver. And fatty liver, remember, your liver is a suitcase. Your liver is the Costco parking lot. It gets full, and when the suitcase gets full, you're in trouble because your body will send the extra fat that's in the liver as much as it can. It will send it into your bloodstream as triglycerides. And it's so important that you understand that. Doctors miss this. They miss fatty liver because they're waiting. You know, do you need an ultrasound to know that you have fatty liver? No. Look at your blood work, or even look at your symptoms. Look at your blood work, folks. If you have everything I'm going to talk to you about in metabolic syndrome is caused by one thing: food. Now, there's lots of things we can do to make ourselves metabolically healthy. We'll continue with that today. But understand the underlying reason. You know, when I was in school, we never once, and I mean this, we never once in the 1970s, okay? I graduated in 1974. We never once ever talked about fatty liver. No, I don't remember it. Now, we talked about the liver, and we understood and we studied the liver and the importance of the liver and what the liver does, and it does over 600 things. But we didn't understand the fatty liver, because there was no such thing as fatty liver in the 1970s. Well, if it was, nobody ever talked about it, and it certainly wasn't in the medical textbooks. Non-alcoholic fatty liver. You see, they had to differentiate the fatty liver because cirrhosis of the liver, it's really fatty liver, but caused by alcohol. So that's what we studied. We knew that alcoholics could get cirrhosis of the liver, and it scarred the liver up, and it could be very deadly, of course. But we never studied fatty liver because it didn't exist. It's the emphasis today is you have to understand where I'm coming from. We live in a completely different world. I emphasize that over and over and over again. And this is why the vast majority of people are very unhealthy. Very unhealthy. And the vast majority of the people are going to die from chronic diseases like cancer, cardiovascular, Alzheimer's, diabetes. These are the scourges in our society today. And it really comes down to one thing. We're going to talk about other things, but we're going to talk mostly, if you don't get this, you won't get it. It's insulin. It is the food hormone. You only secrete insulin when you eat. And, you know, this is why I love the reset, and I started the reset years ago, and the metabolic reset, how to fix. It fixes fatty liver. It goes right at the problem because it lowers insulin. If you lower insulin, you lower storage, you lower fat storage. Remember, your pancreas secretes insulin to store. It's a storage hormone. It's a traffic cop. It must get sugar out of the bloodstream and store it. And when the cells get full, it stores it in the liver, in your muscles. And it will make as many fat cells as it needs. And a lot of skinny people who think they're healthy are not healthy at all. They have high blood pressure and they don't even know why. They're skinny. But they have visceral fat. They have fat around their liver and they don't even know it. They have fat in their liver and they don't know it. So remember that. If you understand that, you're ahead of 99.9% of all doctors. They just don't get it. They want to treat the symptoms of disease. I was reading a study here, and I thought maybe I would do this, but I'm going to get off track. But let me read it to you, okay? I'll post it, okay? I'll post it on the Martin Clinic Facebook group. I'll post this study. Another one. It was actually a study done in 2018, but I saw it yesterday. You know, they hide these things. Goldman Sachs, the investment banker into the biotech companies. You've heard of Goldman Sachs. Remember in 2008 and all these, too big to fail? And you remember that? Well, Goldman Sachs got bailed out by the government. But their investment, they have $1 trillion in their portfolio. $1 trillion. They're huge. But these are stories behind the stories. Listen to what one of their investment bankers who did research, came out of Harvard University. No dummy. And she's telling the biotech companies in 2018. Listen to what she says. It's much more profitable. This is an investment banker telling the biotech companies to cool your jets. Cool your jets. Quit looking for the cure for cancer. As an investment banker who is putting money into the biotech companies, who is helping to finance their research, here's what she says. She's the leading authority for Goldman Sachs in the biotech section. You know what she's saying? Cool your jets. We don't want a cure. There's no money in a cure. We want you to manage chronic diseases. Manage them. You want to know why you hear very little about nutrition? And even then, as I said yesterday, there's so much confusion out there. You read online, and I want you guys, listen, you get all the information, then you make a decision. I'm here to give you information. I'm here to spout off on my philosophy of health, the way I treated patients for years, and the things that are my experience. Do I think I'm right? Yes, I do. But that's up to you guys. You guys have to make that decision. I'm giving you information. I want to give you information so that you make choices. Really, that's my goal. That's what I do full time now. Full time. Information. Teaching. And I know many of you appreciate it. And you have no idea. I count it as a privilege to be able to do it. And that I have an audience. A large audience. And I'm very thankful for that. Believe you me, I am. But you're going to hear conflicting, because you have to understand, you have to follow the money. Think about it. And you know, I never question the motives. I never question the motives of doctors. I never do. Because I'm sure they're just like me. They just want people to get well. But if you can't think outside the box, if you can't expand your thinking and understand where we are in our society today, where we have a huge problem in our health care, because it's not health care. It's disease care, and there's a vested interest to make sure disease care and symptom care and management of disease is much more important than fixing the problem. So let me bring you back to fatty liver. Fatty liver is fixable in 30 days. 4 weeks, 30 days. It's fixable. It's food. It's not anything else. Fatty liver, it's non-alcoholic fatty liver. It's not alcohol, although that can contribute, because alcohol goes directly to the liver. It doesn't pass go. The sugar in alcohol directly to the liver. But so does high fructose corn syrup. It's the scourge of sugars. It is the antichrist of sugars. And we live on that stuff. North Americans live on that stuff. Let me bring you another point. They're showing about, even COVID, okay? Are you COVID out yet? I am. But there's so much information as we learn more and more about this virus and whatever, but I want to tie it into metabolic syndrome. I want to tie it in. I have been doing it. I've been talking about the elephant in the room, because people are not talking about it. But there was a story yesterday that came out in the news that Japanese in Japan, they have the lowest death rate and yet the oldest population. Do you know per capita that Japan has the oldest population in the world per capita? And yet they had the lowest death rate in COVID. Why is that? Why is that? Because the Japanese have very little metabolic syndrome. They have very little metabolic syndrome. Even though they have the oldest population, and they have a very dense population too. Okay, so people are on top of each other in Japan. But they don't have metabolic syndrome like we have. Now, if they introduce our diet to them, the Japanese would be sick in a very short period of time. They just have to come to North America and eat like we eat. And they get to the 200 pounds of sugar and crappy carbohydrates a year. That makes metabolic syndrome, guys. And so COVID in Japan, even though they have it, even though they have a very elderly population comparatively, but they had very little deaths in COVID in Japan. That was the story. That was the story. The story, but nobody even said it. Nobody said it. I say it. They didn't say why Japan had very little death. They didn't say it. Even in the article, they didn't say it. Oh, what are they doing? You know? Oh, you know what they said? I'll tell you what they said. They wore masks. Okay. Yeah. I'll give them that. If they wore a mask and that was really helpful. But guys, they don't have metabolic syndrome. That's why. Because even if you ask a doctor, what are the pre-existing conditions? What is the pre-existing conditions that made North Americans so sick? If you didn't have the pre-existing conditions, you almost had no risk. You might have contacted the virus, but you had no risk of getting very ill. It was almost minimal. It was the cofactors. It was the metabolic syndrome. What is that? High blood pressure, obesity, fatty liver. That's why. Diabetics. They were in deep doo-doo. Deep doo-doo if they got this virus. And in Japan, they didn't have those underlying conditions. That's just what it is, guys. Okay, so now let's get in. Let's get into the topic. I love giving that background because I want you to understand. I want you to understand, and I know you do, but I want to re-emphasize that. Because when you hear health news, when you look on the internet, and I want you to do it, I want you to get it from all sides. But just understand that if you break it down, the problem is food. You know, I know there's the environment, there's other factors, I get it. But the number one thing you can't control, like the environment, what are you going to do? Go live in where? Tell me where you're going that has no pollution. Tell me where you're going that you're not breathing in plastic. Tell me where you're going that there will be no xenoestrogens around you. You know? Let me look at your bank account if you can afford organic everything. I hope you can. Good for you. But the vast majority of people, if they make these simple changes, I didn't say they were easy. I said they were simple. If they make simple changes, they're decreasing their risk. They'll become like the Japanese. okay? And they don't have metabolic syndrome, even though they eat rice. But they eat a lot of meat. They eat a lot of fish. And they don't eat sugar like we do. They don't live on Doritos or whatever, crappy dinner, Kraft dinner. That's sugar in 5 seconds. The crappy foods and the breakfast cereals and the stuff. They have sushi in the stinking morning. I don't like that. I couldn't live over there. I got to have my bacon and eggs this morning. Bacon and eggs and sausage. Okay. So what do you do? Okay. Remember, 12% of the population is metabolically healthy. 50% of the population are diabetic and pre. And listen, it's higher than that. It's higher than that. But I'm just giving you CDC statistics. 50% have high blood pressure. Imagine in the United States. Imagine 50% of the population have high blood pressure. Well, Dr. Martin, what does food have to do with high blood pressure? It has everything to do with high blood pressure. Because what insulin does, when you get insulin resistance, you create inflammation in the body. That inflammation will affect the lining, the Teflon lining of your blood vessels. You will lower your levels of nitric oxide because of it. You start forming plaque in your arteries, not from fat, but from carbs and sugars. It affects that endothelial Teflon. You remember Teflon? That's what your arteries are supposed to be like, Teflon. Nothing sticks to them. It isn't cholesterol. It's triglycerides. It affects the endothelial, the little lining, the Teflon lining of your blood vessels, and it damages them. And one of the first signs of that is high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, you've got a problem with your circulation. But it's due to food. It's part of metabolic syndrome. 50%. Imagine 50% of the population. Now, I'll tell you something. If you're in the pharmaceutical industry and you have a blood pressure pill, are you talking, you know what here's their prevention. Here's the pharmaceutical industry influencing medicine to say, well, listen, if you have high blood pressure, cut out your salts. You've heard that. You have high blood pressure? Don't eat red meat. You've heard that. Ooh. I'm getting high blood pressure just thinking about it. No, I think about what they're saying. They're saying, well, cut out your salts and take our pills. I understand that. They're in that business. Goldman Sachs is very happy with them. What is your cash flow like? What is your money like? We're investing, guys. What are you doing with our money? Goldman Sachs would ask. Pfizer or Bayer or whatever these big companies are. And they keep us in the dark. And 50% of the population, imagine 50% of the population are taking the pills rather than changing their diet. Oh, Dr. Martin, I got to take, I didn't say not to take your pills. All I'm saying is, why don't you get to the root problem? It's part of metabolic syndrome because your insulin is elevated And it's inflammation. And inflammation's not Houdini. You just don't have inflammation, because even doctors would admit inflammation is at the root of almost everything, all diseases. They admit that. You see, I was listening to a guy last night talk about, again, I'm coming back to COVID for a second. But he was saying it's not the virus that makes you sick. He said it was the inflammatory response from the immune system that makes you sick. And if you have pre-existing conditions, well, your immune system, it overcompensates. And I liked what he said. I liked what he said. But he didn't finish. He didn't tell you he didn't tell you how to fix diabetes. Because if you fix diabetes, your risk of COVID is almost nothing. It's connected. Your immune system is connected to your insulin. See what I mean? So what do? I didn't want to spend really 3 sessions doing the metabolic syndrome, okay? I didn't want to spend 3 sessions, but maybe I will. So if I was you, what would I do? Okay? Now, obviously, we talked about it yesterday. Eggs, meat, and cheese. Eat lots of red meat. And I tried to emphasize that yesterday, the importance of it. It's very anti-inflammatory, red meat. So don't believe the stuff that red meat is cancer and red meat is bad and red meat is full of fat. Yes, it is full of fat. Good. And somebody said to me yesterday, Doc, I can't afford steak. Is hamburger good? Yeah. The only problem with hamburger in the supermarkets, just try and find the fat. It's all lean hamburger. Try and find the fat. So Rosie makes her meatballs. Okay? And lets them just soak them in that olive oil to get the fat back into the hamburger where it belongs. Don't throw your fat out. Eat it. That's where all your vitamins are. All your nutrients. These are so nutrient-dense foods. It's not the hamburger that kills you. It's the bun. It's not the cheese on top of your hamburger. Even the bacon. It's the bun. It's insulin. That's what fills the liver with glycogen, which turns to fat, is stored as fat, that goes into the bloodstream as triglycerides. Oh, connect the dots, guys. Connect the dots. It's so important to connect the dots. So, eat red meat, eggs, meat, and cheese. Avoid sugar like the plague. Crappy carbs. Get some sun. What's sun got to do with metabolic syndrome? It has everything to do with metabolic syndrome. The higher your serum levels of vitamin D, the better your pancreas works, the better your liver works, the better your brain works, the better your immune system works, the better your skeletal system works. Vitamin D, you are a human solar panel. Understand you are a human solar panel. How important that is, that every cell in your body, the little battery packs inside your body called your mitochondria, they want sun. It helps with everything. So if you want to be metabolically healthy, get some sun. If you can't get in the sun, Get your vitamin D. Part of Martin Clinic alphabet, the vitamin D. Is it my favorite? Well, after vitamin C, coffee. No, I love the sun. The sun is so good, guys. The sun is so good. It's not a boogeyman. And we've heard it for years now. My generation, especially. Johnson & Johnson. Get out of the sun. Get out of the sun. You're going to get skin cancer. You're going to get skin cancer. The sun's no good for you. It'll wrinkle you up. You know what wrinkles you up? It isn't the sun. It's sugar that wrinkles your skin. Sugar wrinkles your skin. Yes, because of glycation. AGES. Glycation end products. That's what ages your skin. It's sugar. It's your diet, not the sun. That was brought to you by Johnson & Johnson. Put on our sunscreens. Oh, I can't stand being lied to. I can't stand it. Drives me insane. And you see it all alike. Even today, my generation, older people, people that even older than me. Oh, dang, I don't go in the sun. If you go into every nursing home, those beautiful people, our seniors. Dr. Martin, somebody said to me the other day, you're a senior. I know, but I don't look at myself. Even though I know I'm a senior. But I have such a heart for seniors. I do, but they've been lied to. They believed everything that came out of the 1970s. Oh, cholesterol. Oh. And they got on statin drugs, and they made pharmaceutical companies multi-gazillionaires. And they made Johnson & Johnson multi-gazillionaires. Because they believed about the sun. They lathered up their kids, and they lathered up their grandchildren, and they lathered themselves up, and they wouldn't even sit in the sun. A lot of people hope, they wouldn't go in the sun if their life depended on it. The sun, that's the boogeyman up there. That's the bad guy up in the sky. You can't go near the sun. You know how many Floridians never go in the stinking sun? They get the sun about 335, 40 days a year. I'm worried. They're going to keep the border closed. I wanted to go to Florida. Dr. Martin, they got so much test spot. Don't get me going, okay? Floridians, they don't go in the sun. They're scared of it. They're not on the beaches down there. It's all us Canadians in the wintertime. Oh, anyway. I don't want to get too excited. Okay, so we did, I've got 8 things. We did 1, 2, 3. So might have to do another one tomorrow, another session on this tomorrow. What do you do to avoid metabolic syndrome? You must start with your diet. You want to save your pancreas? If you save your pancreas, you'll save your liver. If you save your liver, you'll save your kidneys. If you save your liver, you'll lower your triglycerides, therefore you'll save your heart. If you lower your inflammation and lower your sugars and lower your insulin, you will save your brain. You will save your eyes. You will save your circulation. You will save your immune system. It's not complicated. It really isn't complicated. There's a lot of physiology in there that I don't go into the weeds like I could. But you see the importance of food, and then the importance of the sun. I put it right up there. Is so important. So important. So anti-inflammatory. So good for the energy, the battery packs within your cells. Every cell in your body's got a mitochondria. It needs to be charged, and the sun helps to charge it, along with good food. Okay. Love you guys. We, Lord willing, we'll see each other tomorrow. I appreciate your the faithful followers. Share this if you can. Share this with your friends and your family. Bring people on so that they can hear the other side of things. Okay? Listen to the rants of a crazy doctor. Anyway, love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.